We're going to look at making these wire macrame rings. I have done a previous tutorial which I do suggest you watch first so you understand why we're making some decisions and how to do particular knots. I do explain them clearer in the first video. I don't want to repeat myself, so just go back and have a watch. And we're going to look at putting this section in, so we've got a bead. When the person wears it, the bead's on top and this macrame just goes around the finger, and this obviously means that it is no longer adjustable and is a static size, but I just happen to really like the look of these rings. I've shown before about picking the ring size to the mandrel and doing it that way. It's in the first tutorial, so I'm not going to repeat that. So I'll take that out of the way. For this tutorial we're going to do our wraps, our loops, very simply. The only difference to the previous tutorial is going to come in just a second. And to make sure this is closed properly, I just trimmed a bit off so that it's going to sit flat and close properly. I'm just going to pinch that there. I really love these Xeron pliers because even though they're a round nose, they've got this flat inside up here, so it's like having a pair of round nose and chain nose together. I'm a really big fan of these, and they've got a comfort grip, so if you have dexterity issues, I just love them. So again, other side. Oh, try to grip them properly. When you're doing this, you're going to be making it, close to your face. You can see what you're doing. Okay, and just flatten that out, close it properly again. Now, when we've made this ring, we've always laid it down like this. But for this tutorial, we actually need to have it so that the loop is facing up. So you need to make your own holding basically for that, and I'll do that now actually on this tutorial. I was considering doing a separate one, but as we're here, I'm using 1.25. Okay, and I'm not going to cut it off the thing just yet. I want to put my loop actually through there just to show you. The point is I want to hold it in place so that it can't move. I mean, a little bit's not too bad, but I want it to not be able to move as much as possible once it's on there. So I'm really trying to get this section here as small as possible. So I'm going to put that on. I'm going to go in with my flush cutters, try and get it about the same size. I'm going to cut it at an angle so that it's going to be sharp and able to go into my board, and then just like I would with a T-pin, I'm going to try and push this down as much as I can. Oh, I made a bit of a mistake there. I want to make sure that this is facing me as well, so you want to do it that way. Make sure you're getting your angles right. I'm just going to cut the other side a bit because it wasn't as sharp, and I possibly wouldn't even want it this long. So, steep angle. Cut, and then jab it in. So now we start the ring in the exact same way that we have done. It's just making sure that it's sat this way for adding it in. Now I have tried just doing it on the side and then at the end pushing these back up. You can do it that way, but it's just a little bit messier and it can sometimes scratch the person wearing it, so just be aware of that. going to take our wire as normal, and we want to go through, and we're going to do it. Now I'm not going to do the full length for this just because it is just doing a load of square knots, and by this point you should be able to do that. If you're not sure, see the other tutorials. Okay, D number 4, go under, and there you go, first half of your knot. Now I'm actually going to come to this far end and go under that way, because I don't want to keep dislodging that section. So there we have it. Again, now you could add beads in the same way I've shown you in the other part of the tutorial. If you wanted to have some beads on this part as well, so like here, what you would do is obviously you would use seed beads and smaller beads because you want them to be comfortable, but for the sake of showing you here, I'm just going to thread this on. I wouldn't do it on the centre bit, I'd only do it on the bits. I wouldn't do it on the lazy strand, I'd do it on your active strands. That's what I'm trying to say. The thing with wire is, even though you can undo it, you know, if I did tie that in a knot and they were in the wrong place, it's quite fiddly, and also if you overwork the wire it can snap and you don't really want that. Okay, so I just add those in and I'd keep doing those knots. Now again, they are just a load of square knots, and I've done several tutorials with square knots now, so I don't feel that it would be productive for us to go over that again. However, we'll skip straight to the next step, assuming that we have done square knots all the way along to the end. We now have our completed piece, and whereas before we had it this way and we moulded it that way, we're going to mould it with these points going down. So when I put it in the mandrel before, I actually started with the points, but because we're trying to get those to go outwards, we actually do those last. We basically want, it's almost kind of like a U shape. We want these to come together. And depending on the size of the bead you want to put in at this point, you know, so on, where's my, yeah, so on this tutorial I've got quite a long oval bead, not tutorial, on this example, so I wouldn't close this quite so much, I'd leave it wider. It would make the ring a bigger size, be aware of that. On this one, so say I was going to use one of these beads, this would fit pretty well in there. But for now I'm just going to use one of these shell pearls. So if I'd started this side, obviously my wire would be here and I'd just do it from there, and I'd finish it in the exact same way as I've shown you prior to now, except for instead of cutting it here we'd still have some left, but I'm just going to do it here as if we'd started this side and gone all the way around. So I'd just do a couple of wraps around. I could cut one off if I wanted, but I'm just going to keep this to the side for now. So you would thread this on. This is going to be your centre bead. Now because I finished over on this side, the bead's actually going to sit lower than I want. So another tip is to actually go through this loop here. I'm going to go through here. Just do a couple more wraps until you're higher up. Okay, now when I try and wrap across, the wire's sat higher, so that means my bead will sit higher. Just thread that bead back on. And there you can see, whereas before it was right down here, it's now set up here. And you very simply, it's a very simple tutorial, that's why I love these rings so much. Thread that through there, and then we wrap. Now I wouldn't wrap this way, I'd wrap underneath, so I'm going to take it off. I'm going to go through here. Now you want it tight, but you don't want it too tight because you don't want to bend the shape out, so I just pull it until the point that there's a resistance. You know, I'm not yanking it, I'm just gently pulling it a little bit each time. Okay, and then I'm going to go back through the loop. Being careful that I'm not getting kinks in my wire. Okay, then I'm going to go back through here again. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to hit the camera. And then I'd probably do it a third time. Now if you had a thick gauge of wire as your centre, you could probably, even this one, you wouldn't even have to do any of the macrame, you know, you could get away with just doing it like this. I'm just going to cut this here. And you'd use your pliers to make sure that's sat flat. Okay, so I haven't needed that, so I would just wrap this off. Just going to wrap this around this bead a couple of times. I already showed you how to finish it on the other tutorial, so I'm not going to do that. I would just wrap it around there, then cut, then use that one to go over, as I did on the other tutorial. But there you go. So if you were doing this as a wire wrap, as a macrame ring, I'd do all the macrame loops all the way around, and then put a bead in the top here. So it'd be like this one. Or if you so chose, you could just use this, a thicker wire, put it on your mandrel. Oh, if ever it loses shape, put it back on your mandrel as well, because that puts the wire back in shape. And then you could actually just hammer. I might do that as a future tutorial just to show people. But for now, as this is the macrame one, there you have it. Beads onto macrame.